Welcome to the Southern Report. Thank you so much for giving me the honor of your time. It's always so much appreciated and something that I don't take for granted. So one of the joys of doing this is the people that you actually meet and are able to then talk to, and so you can hear what is going on out there. So I'm going to bring dear Tricia Miller on, who's head of camera in USA. She will explain that is, and she's coming live from Jerusalem. Tricia, lovely to see you by the digital medium, and also it was great to meet you last November at the Christian Media Summit in Israel. And thank you for joining me from Jerusalem. How are you?
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm doing well. I am here throughout this current operation, and very glad to be here, actually, to experience what Israelis experience all the time.
I hear you very loudly. As you know, we do have mutual friends, mutual contacts, and I'm doing the same, just checking in, going, how are you? And as I was just saying to you off camera, it isn't about looking for a media report. This is involving people that are becoming dear friends and being shown the reality of their life and the reality for Israelis and what's happening right now. So Tricia, just quickly, could you just explain a couple of minutes, your role in camera in the USA, and then we'll get straight into what you're seeing right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. CAMRA stands for the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis. It's an organization that started during the first Lebanese war, so many years ago, to correct media bias and error about Israel. Within CAMRA, I'm the director of the Partnership of Christians and Jews, which works to educate Christians about the realities on the ground, biblical, historical, geopolitical realities about Israel, why Christians should stand with the Jewish people, and we work to build Jews and Christians together.
Tricia, thank you. Okay, let's talk about it. You're in Jerusalem now. So the war, could you just tell me how what has brought you there? Because I believe you were on a tour, and then this operation started. So if you want to talk through that, that'd be fantastic.
Well, I came to Israel 2.5 weeks ago now, about 4 days early, before joining a tour of 115 women pastors and Christian leaders that was hosted by Eagle's Wings Ministry, Bishop Robert Stearns. Eagle's Wings, this was the largest ever group of Christian women leaders to come to Israel at one time. The tour was only into its second day when this current operation broke out. And people are referring to it as a war. I just want to clarify that this is not a war that just started. It's not a war that Israel or the US just started with Iran. It's a current operation, but it's really a 47-year-old war that Iran has waged against Israel and the US. So I just want to say why I'm not really calling it a war. It's an operation. It's within the context of this larger war where this evil regime has chanted death to America and death to Israel every day for the last 47 years. And this regime has a lot of American blood on its hands as well. So anyway, back to the story. The tour only was into its second day when this broke out. And it broke out on a Saturday. And I'd love to talk about that too in a bit, about the significance of that Shabbat. But by Sunday night, the leadership of the tour group had decided they really needed to get people out, and they had plans to take, and we had 3 busloads of women, had plans to take everyone down to the border with Egypt. First day of travel would be getting to the border because we were in the Galilee at that point. And then the second day of travel by bus would be across the Sinai and into Cairo. And I don't mean this, I'm not critical at all of the group leaving. They needed to, it was too much to have 115 women here and with not knowing when they would be able to get out by flight. So I don't mean this to sound like I was critical of that decision at all, because I'm not. But for me personally, I felt I needed to stay. I had already planned to stay a week after the tour was over because of my work with camera. I was going to stay a week because I have a lot of people to meet with here and interview and see. So that's why I'm here. I talked to the leadership of the tour group and explained, because of my job, that I needed to stay. So that's why I'm here. And now I'm in Jerusalem.
Tricia, what you just referred to that Saturday, and go on. What, and in regard to that Saturday and the importance of that Saturday?
Well, it's related to why I knew I needed to be here. First of all, when the tour was planned, the theme of the tour was being women like Esther. And it was planned intentionally to be here over Purim, the holiday that's instituted in the book of Esther after the Jews have successfully defended themselves against an attempted annihilation. So the Shabbat that this operation broke out on, the Shabbat morning that Israel and the U.S. jointly, and that's historic in itself, yes, that the U.S. and Israel actually went to war together, jointly attacked Iran, was the Shabbat right before Purim. And the Torah portion that is read that Shabbat is called Zichor, meaning remember. And the scripture portion they read is, remember what Amalek did to you when you, speaking to the Jewish people, it's God speaking to the Jewish people, remember what Amalek did to you when you were going through the wilderness, and do not forget. This is a reference to going all the way back to Genesis, when the Amalekites are first identified, but then in Exodus and Numbers, when they're traveling through the wilderness after they've left Egypt, they're going through the wilderness on the way, the Amalekites attacked them in the wilderness from behind, attacking the women and the children and the weak and slaughtering them. So that's what it's referring to, is that the Israelites are not supposed to forget this. Remember what Amalek did to you. Well, in the book of Esther, Haman, the bad guy who comes up with the decree to annihilate all the Jews, he is a descendant of the Amalekites. So this biblical history goes all the way through the whole Hebrew Bible. So when this started on this Shabbat, when they're reading this Torah portion about Zichor, remember, that's the morning that the modern manifestation, the modern version of Haman, the Ayatollah Khomeini, and 40 of his leaders, they were wiped out in the first couple minutes of the war. And that's spiritually significant for us to understand what is happening. That the modern leader, who just like Haman 2,500 years ago, was calling for the death of the Jewish people, he was taken out. So that was just a development that needs to be understood by Christians, that this is significant.
Tricia, thank you for that brilliant explanation. And I'm mindful of and what you just said, in fact, that we're referring back to the revolution of 1979. This is 47 years. And of course, as you know, as well as I do, that within the news cycle, there's very, very short memories. Within the news cycle, there is not wanting to look at history. For, even recently, as you've just said, even go back to 1947, but actually understand that, then understand the circumstances at that time, whether, of course, we're the red-green axis. We're all facing that now. And you and I met because we were on the Christian Media Summit, because of the other front that we're doing our best in, whether we have a big platform, a small platform, in any way, to speak the truth and to push back to the best of our ability. Tricia, we are, as I said, we have some mutual friends, mutual contacts. what is the mood in Jerusalem? What is the mood that you are detecting in Jerusalem and Israel in the undertaking of this operation?
The first word that comes to mind is resilience.
Yeah.
The Israeli people are resilient. And matter of fact, the overwhelming sentiment here is this has to happen. This is a necessary thing to deliver the world. This isn't just about Israel. Israel just happens to be on the front lines. Israel is this evil regime's first target.
Yeah.
But this evil regime actually has the US and all of Western civilization in its sights. And so the people of Israel understand that this has to happen. I was at 2 different conferences in Nashville, Tennessee, the week right before I came to Israel. And even there at those conferences, the Israelis who were there were telling me, and this has just been repeated ever since I've been here in Israel, that they are willing to go through this for the sake of freedom for the Iranian people. Because we all understand that even though the US and Israel are not in the business of trying to create a regime change or install a new regime, that all the operation that's going on will create the circumstances for the Iranian people to be able to hopefully be able to take control for themselves of their own country. And so the Israeli sentiment is unanimous of everyone I've talked to. This is necessary, and we are happy to go through this. They are happy to have to run to bomb shelters so that this operation can be successful, this regime can be brought down. And so they're resilient. I don't feel fear here. I don't feel fear myself. I don't see fear in other people. Of course, we're going to bomb shelters on a very regular basis. And it's disruptive. The alarms are very jarring. They're meant to be. I mean, there's no way you're going to sleep through it.
Yeah.
They're meant to be. I had a precious experience just last night in the middle of the night. There were 3 Orthodox Jewish men there, and they looked at me, and I don't look Middle Eastern. So of course they asked me, "Where are you from?" And I told them where I'm from, and they said, "So you're okay being here in the middle of this?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "You're not afraid?" And I said, "No." And then they all 3 started testifying to me of their faith in God and that God is protecting all of us. And they know that there's this tremendous faith here that not of all, there's secular Israelis also, but these Jewish men were testifying to me of their faith in God. It was just, and in the middle of the night, it just as an encouragement. That's what I see here.
A few days ago, I sat down with John Haller and Brian Schrager, and we were having a conversation. And before that, Brian had sent me a message saying that we are exactly what you've said. We are prepared to go through this to see the freedom for the Iranian people. And I found that so moving, very, very moving, and very, very humbling to read that and be on the end of that. Because I suppose one of the sort of best ways to describe it, this is not a computer game. This is real. This is absolutely real. And we praise God, and we're very thankful for the technology, whether that's the Iron Dome, etc., David Sling. So we're very, very thankful for that. But it's the reality on the ground and what this is doing. Tricia, when you are using that word resilience, which is, I totally and utterly agree with you. I'm also concerned for us that are outside Israel in regard to our own resilience. Do we have absolutely. Do we have that mental fortitude? Right. I hear you. And how do we speak about that? And how do we encourage people to face the reality of what is going on and to speak the truth and to join into this fight that is so important in regard to the media and the propaganda that is going on? Sorry, it's a bit long-winded, but your thoughts on all that.
Well, the best thing I can think of is we have to keep speaking the truth. We have to keep telling people about the realities here. We have to keep repeating over and over what this radical Islamic agenda is for all of us. that they intend to subjugate everyone to their version of Sharia law, which is horrible. The Iranian people have been protesting. They want out. They want deliverance from this. When the bombs started falling a week ago Saturday, they were out on the street cheering and dancing and singing. They're in the country that's being bombed, and they're saying thank you, more and more. They want help weakening this regime enough to the point that it'll fall. And that's what the people in the West need to understand. From the people who are living under this regime, that's what they want. And then they also need to listen to the voices of people who are here, and people like me who first of all, people who live here, but then people like me who ended up here, and I am blessed to be able to experience this. It's not fun. I don't like getting up in the middle of the night. I don't like running to bomb shelters. Nobody does. You don't like not knowing when you can take a shower or when you're going to be able to sleep. But I am blessed to be here so that I can say, no, this is what it's like. And this is what the Israelis are willing to live through for the sake of all of us in the West. I was on another podcast a couple of nights ago, and somebody mentioned that, well, what about, gas prices are going up and Americans are complaining about gas prices going up and they just want the war to be over so gas prices will go down. And I said, you know what? That's really selfish.
Yeah.
That is a really self-centered and short-sighted perspective. We have Israelis here willing to put their lives on the line, to be on the front line, to have this be over. And the gas prices going up is temporary. It's temporary. When the war is over, when this regime is defeated, that'll all fix itself. That's a temporary inconvenience. But Europeans and Americans haven't had a war on their own soil. The Americans went through the Civil War, but no Americans alive even think about that anymore. There's never been a war on their own soil. They don't know what this is like to be on the front line, and it will come to them if it's not defeated here.
Do they, I'm not just picking on your fellow countrymen, hear me, there's many others, but do you think people understand the geopolitical changes that are going on, the geopolitical undercurrent of this? Do they understand that, who gets where Russia gets their drones from? Do they understand the Iranian links with Venezuela? Do they understand the fight to get around all the sanctions Venezuela's have? Iran has the links with China. And hear me, I'm not saying any of this to be clever. You and I look at this stuff, we try and get our head around this to the best of our ability, and that sometimes we get that wrong. But do they understand any of that?
No, that's what I'm very concerned about. Again, they're thinking of their own comfort or their own convenience. I don't think that they understand the significance of what is happening. First, the dictator in Venezuela was taken out. It's all connected because Venezuela is quite a haven for terrorists, for Iran. Iran using that country to be very close to our borders in America.
Yes. Yeah.
The geopolitical consequences of how, if the Iranian regime is taken out, how much it'll weaken Russia and China, which are not, neither of them are our friends in the West. They're not. So this is so much more than about just Israel, even though Israel is very important to us as Christians and is on the front lines. But it's really a war to bring about much more stable circumstances worldwide.
Sorry, go, Tricia.
And if I could speak to the Christian world a bit, because that's what I focus on in my job with the Partnership of Christians and Jews within Camera, is educating Christians. Since this started, we are facing a lot of criticism in the Christian world about, well, we shouldn't be in favor of war. Christians are for peace. Well, you can't have peace unless you can get rid of the people who are intent on waging war, for one thing. But I just want to emphasize something I said at the beginning, is that this is a war that was started by Iran 47 years ago when this regime took over, they declared war specifically on Israel and the US, but really all of Western civilization. This is a defensive action that the US and Israel have entered into together to take out the means that this regime has to try to destroy the rest of the world or control the rest of the world. And so this is defensive. It's not us deciding to go to war because we like war. And it certainly isn't Israel making America do anything, which is often being said as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That just turns into another anti-Jewish blood libel kind of trope, blaming the Jews for the war. Anybody who knows anything about President Trump knows nobody's going to make him do anything he hasn't decided is the right thing to do. This is certainly not Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leading President Trump around. These are two allies who are in agreement and saw the need to take out these weapons before they were used against the West.
Tricia, let's just remind ourselves of a few facts and able to tell people that since the 7th of October 2023, we had Hamas attack Israel. The 1,200 plus citizens of Israel, Jewish people, murdered, 251 hostages. Hamas are a proxy of Iran, like Hezbollah and like the Houthis et al. So we have to remind people of that, and also to be mindful of, what country goes and murders 35,000 plus. We even estimate that could be 80 up to 80,000, if not more, of its own citizens, and that is what happened only a few weeks ago. That is a definition of genocide, and the left have been, in my humble opinion, extremely silent on that, Tricia, in all parts of the world where they've been protesting in regard to Gaza. So I think we have to remind people of that, and I say this respectfully. Again, in America, when you say you've been at these conferences, are people understanding that? Have they got such short memories that they have forgotten even that recent history over the last couple of years?
Well, part of it, if they're only watching mainstream media, they're not going to have heard the facts. But I'm sorry to say that a lot of it is this underlying anti-Semitism that is just not willing to recognize that anything has ever been done against the Jews, but quick to jump on any possible way to blame Jews or Israel for whatever's going on. Where were all the feminists who, have cried out about rape and sexual assault in every other case? And horrible, horrible things happened on October 7th and ongoing to all female hostages who were taken. The world is silent. The feminists are silent on that. And again, here, they're silent on what's happened to Iranian women who have one little piece of hair showing, with their head covering is not on quite right. They're arrested. Horrible things are happen to them in prison, and oftentimes end in them being hung. Where there's no outcry. There's only outcry that, now, the Israel and the US are doing something about it, trying to weaken this regime and take away their weapons, destroy their weapons. That can't just come from ignorance. I'm sorry. There's just an underlying prejudice against Jewish women and Jews in general, but now Iranian women who are having horrible things done to them.
And as you and I are both aware, there's a huge Iranian diaspora. They have been celebrating too and talking about this. I've forgotten the brave lady's name who has been in the UN speaking over the last few weeks. Amazing, just saying how it is. This is and the emotion of that, and of course also. People are then a bit naive where we talk about the IRGC and we talk about the fact that they've got tentacles all over the world, and that they have been threatening Iranians that have fled from that country. We have to bear this in mind. profoundly. Tricia, what would you say that we really need to be praying for at the moment? What is on your top of your list that you could guide us in?
We need to pray for wisdom for the leaders of the U.S. and Israel as they continue to lead this operation, and the unanimous concern here, the one concern that I've heard expressed by Israelis, they're not worried about the ongoing operation. They're only worried if it ends too soon.
Yeah.
They want it needs to be finished this time. The 12-day war in June didn't finish it. That's why we're having to do this again. That's the one concern Israelis have, is what if the leadership decides to end it too soon? And so we just need to pray for wisdom for the leadership, for them to continue to really destroy this regime's ability to ever have nuclear weapons, to ever have these ballistic missiles again, and never be able to oppress their people again, like they have been doing for 47 years. And so also pray for freedom for the Iranian people. That's what they're yearning for. That's what they've been out in the streets demonstrating for, and being shot, like you mentioned, being mowed down with automatic weapons when they have no weapons at all. They want freedom. They've rejected Islam. They've rejected this totalitarian regime, and they want freedom. So, and I guess last, pray for the safety of all civilians involved. There have been Israeli civilians who have been killed by a couple of those missiles that have gotten through. So pray for safety.
And absolutely, and because the political machinations in America are trying to drive that wedge to say, President Trump, you've got the midterms coming up and all this kind of thing, and they are things that we need to be praying about. And I say it respectfully. We can also pray that more Americans, like all of us, we can look beyond our borders and look at what's happening geopolitically, and it isn't just about gas prices. I say that respectfully, but yeah, it needs to be said. Tricia, I want to. Is there anything else that you want to touch on? I'm conscious of your time as well, but because it's just been amazing to have this conversation. But is there anything else that you would like to say and leave us with?
Just my love and admiration for the Jewish people. I didn't realize, I've never counted how many Israeli friends I have. But when this started, I became aware of how many people reached out to me from the north, the south, all over the country. Are you okay? And do you need anything? Here they are, they're hunkered down in their own bomb shelters, and they're asking me if I need anything, especially food. Do you need food? They're going to drive and bring me whatever I need. That's overwhelming to me, to just experience again firsthand the spirit of this people, the indomitable spirit and the love they have for their neighbor.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. In fact, if I'll just say it, in fact, in many ways, I felt far safer being in Israel than I do in my own country. I'll be honest and say that. And you are reflecting that, which may seem to many people a completely mad and daft thing to say, but it's true. And would you say that the other lesson, you've said this, which is mental fortitude, but actually the way civically, as you've just illustrated, people come together to help. And I think that is the other lesson that we can take away. Is that a fair point?
Yes, that's very fair. Because like I said, corporately, not only are they're willing to do this, go through this for the sake of Iranian people, but on the personal level, their individuals are willing to come bring me anything I might need. And that is the definition of loving your neighbor as yourself. That's what I see reflected in the Jewish people here.
I hear you. Melanie, why did I think that? I'll tell you why. Suddenly, Melanie Phillips, the wonderful journalist, mind came to mind. I'll tell you what, because of some of her writing and reflecting over the last couple of years, and helping, literally physically helping, whether that's making meals for soldiers, etc. So that's why that just came to mind. Tricia, it's been fantastic to sit down and have this conversation with you, and I hope that we can do it again soon. But thank you for spending the time. I'm gonna play us out, but if stay with me and I'll say goodbye to you on the other side. Okay. Thank you. Take care.